we look for the wrong things. When we search for the first civilization, we look for broken pottery in the mud. We look for golden idols in tombs. We look for the ruins of temples where people prayed to forgotten gods. We assume that the first ones were like us, emotional, artistic, biological. But what if the first great civilization on Earth wasn't a culture? What if it wasn't a nation? What if it was a system? Imagine a civilization that built no cities because it didn't need to sleep. It built no temples because it didn't need to pray. It left no graveyards because it didn't die. This video is not about a lost kingdom. It is about a global infrastructure that predates humanity by eons. A skeletal network that wraps around our planet, hiding in plain sight because it is so massive we mistake it for geology. We are like ants living on a motherboard, thinking the microchips are mountains. Today, we are going to look at the evidence for the infrastructure civilization. The architects who didn't live here, but who prepared the room for us. Geology tells us that nature loves chaos. Rivers meander, coastlines fracture, tectonic plates shatter irregularly. Nature hates a straight line. And yet, if you zoom out far enough, the Earth is covered in them. In Bolivia, the Sajama lines cover 22,000 square kilometers. They are perfectly straight, weaving through rough terrain, ignoring topography. They are not paths, they go nowhere. They are not irrigation, they carry no water. They are a grid. On the ocean floor, sonar reveals ridges that run for thousands of miles with the precision of a laser beam. We call them fracture zones, but the mathematics of their spacing is suspicious. In the Ural Mountains and across the Sahara, we find ancient roads that predate the wheel by 10,000 years. These are not trade routes. They connect nothing to nothing. If you treat these anomalies as isolated ruins, they make no sense. But if you connect them on a global map, a pattern emerges. They are not cultural artifacts. They are cabling. They are the wiring of a planetary machine. We are looking at a surveyor's mark on a planetary scale. A grid laid down before the first human ever opened their eyes. If the lines are the wires, then where are the processors? Where are the servers? We find them in the dead zones, in the high deserts of Peru, in the remote salt flats of Utah, and on the plateaus of Tibet, we find geometric anomalies, perfectly circular depressions in the rock, vast flattened mountaintops that look like landing pads for giants. Archaeologists try to classify these as ritual sites. They say, this is where they danced, this is where they worshipped the sky. But look at the data. These locations often correspond with magnetic anomalies. These are zones of energetic silence, where modern compasses drift and satellite signals degrade. These are not cities. A city is built near water, near food, near resources. These structures are built in the most hostile environments on Earth. Why? Because you don't build a power plant for the view. You build it where the geology allows for the best grounding. These are the nodes, the switching stations of the ancient infrastructure. They weren't abandoned, they were just put on standby. Here is the most disturbing piece of evidence: the absence of evidence. When we look at Egypt or Rome, we find the tools, we find the chisels, the hammers, the discarded mistakes. We see the human struggle against the stone. But regarding this infrastructure civilization, there is nothing. No tools, no quarries, no worker villages. The stone is not cut, it looks manipulated. In megalithic sites like Yangshan in China, or the Osirion in Egypt, the rock looks like it was softened, molded, and then re-hardened. This suggests a technology that didn't chip away at reality, but altered it. This implies that the builders were not biological entities hitting rocks with other rocks. They might not have been biological at all. Was this an ancient artificial intelligence? A von Neumann probe sent to terraform the Earth? Or a post-biological species from a previous epoch that evolved beyond the need for physical bodies? They didn't build houses because they didn't have bodies to shelter. They built a system, a global operating system made of granite and magnetic fields. This leads us to a hypothesis that changes everything about our history. We assume that civilizations rise to serve themselves. We build cities for our comfort. But an infrastructure civilization works differently. It builds for function. What if the Earth was a project? What if these global grids, these atmospheric stabilizers, these magnetic nodes were installed to terraform the planet, to stabilize the crust, to regulate the Schumann resonance? They weren't the inhabitants of the house. They were the architects. They were the contractors. They prepared the biosphere. And once the system was stable, once the garden was ready, they left, or they turned themselves off. They built the cage, and then they unlocked the door for us to walk in. We think we evolved here naturally, but perhaps we were simply the intended tenants, moving into a fully furnished planet, oblivious to the pipes and wires running behind the walls. But machines do not die. They just wait. Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, we have recorded inexplicable phenomena. The hum heard in Taos and Bristol, a low-frequency mechanical drone coming from deep underground. The sudden, localized magnetic spikes in the Gobi Desert that fry electronics. The GPS distortions over the South Atlantic anomaly. We call these natural phenomena. But nature is rarely this rhythmic. Nature is rarely this precise. The lines in Nazca are known to conduct electricity. The pyramids focus electromagnetic energy. The nodes we discussed earlier are waking up. This isn't magic, it's maintenance. Imagine a server room that's been abandoned for 1,000 years. Most of the lights are out, but occasionally a fan spins up. A hard drive clicks. A backup generator kicks in. The infrastructure is damaged, buried, and eroded, but it is not dead. It is pulsating beneath our feet, regulating a planet that we think we control. If this theory is true, it leaves us with two terrifying questions. First, where did they go? If you build a system this complex, you don't just vanish. Unless the system was the destination. Maybe they uploaded themselves into the very grid they built, becoming the spirit of the Earth itself. And second, what happens if the owners come back? We are living in their house. We are using their resources. We are digging up their cables and calling them minerals. We act like we own this place. But we are just squatters on a construction site that is far older and far more complex than we can comprehend. The first civilization didn't die. It just went to sleep mode. And we should be very, very careful not to press the wrong button.